Hello, this is Alpha, and in today's video we're going to do comment on stuff as well as play Darksiders 2, the Definitive Edition. So we're going to be playing this on PC, and in today's news we have, well, Nintendo is releasing a Pokemon Gold and Silver remake, which should be pretty interesting. I really didn't play that too much on the DS. I was more into the Platinum, but they already remade uh, Diamond and Pearl, so Gold and Silver is going to probably follow the same path as the Diamond and Pearl. So then we have an article about the Xbox's Red Ring of Death. That's an old story about the 360. It was a notorious flaw. There's a local issue right there. The Azahar emulator is the new best hope for 3DS emulation if Nintendo doesn't crush them with the Iron Fist. I added that part in, don't worry. Then we have another local news. Oh, that's a bad one. Anyways, Valve was pretty close to going bankrupt until it was saved from a Half-Life 2 something. Okay, we'll look at that. And then, what else do we have here? We also have, Pokemon fans roast a surprise new game trailer from Nintendo. Okay, so let's start with the first one I talked with. The Nintendo, this is from GamingBible.com. The Nintendo Switch gamers unite over Pokemon Gold and Silver remakes. The Johto games are some of the most beloved titles in the series, blah blah blah. This is an article by Sam Cowley. And some of the themes that they say here are Pokemon Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl disappoint players with arguably worse visuals and post-game content. Actually, I found the visuals to be fine when I played Pokemon Brilliant Diamond. It wasn't bad at all, and it was actually pretty standard for a JRPG. The visuals were pretty much pretty good. Although this person does not make a argument for why the visuals were disappointing in post-game content. It's a remake. They're not. They didn't really add too much to it besides the mining treasure game. But this is a qualitative argument with no express reason why they say the visuals are worse other than because they said so, which of course is a circular argument. On the top list of remakes, Pokemon Gold and Silver, which is currently nearing its anniversary date, making a primetime announcement if Pokemon Corporation is cooking anything up. Well, right now they're crapping their pants about Power World, but anyways, that's outside the scope of this article. Fans took to Reddit to discuss how... Okay, so this person is using Reddit as a source. Pepsi Man 208 made a post simply saying, "I need to play Johto on the Switch," along with the classics meme of Fry from Futurama saying, "Shut up and take my money." Well, of course it will sell money because it's a remake of a game on a console that's been phased out and the store was closed down. Of course people are gonna want to buy the remake. One fan said a monkey paw scenario would be their wish granted, but you get a lot Let's Go Johto game, which is implying a game that's not even on the Switch, but is a Android mobile game. Which I think is a bad analogy to make. If they remake those games, I'm done. I'll lose my job. I'm gonna turn turn in my belt because I don't have time for Jiu-Jitsu. This guy's gonna give up Jiu-Jitsu in his gym membership. And, okay, that's a little extreme. Levels of fandom there. Honestly, it's a no-brainer for Nintendo and the Pokemon Company to bring these games back. Well, of course they're going to bring the games back. I mean, that's why they've been going after emulation so much, because they don't want emulation cutting into their sales. and such like that. So that is they're comparing it to the performance of Pokemon Scarlet, but we don't know what the performance there is going to be like. The performance in Brilliant Diamond wasn't really terrible or bad, or had the glitches that were prevalent in Pokemon Scarlet or Violet, or Pokemon Violet and Scarlet. I played the Violet version. But again, they fixed those eventually, and it wasn't really that bad. So when I played the finished project, I even finished the Indigo Disc DLC. So this person is just overstating old issues and relating situations with titles that are freaking false appeal to authority and irrelevant details. So we can see that was the Pokemon article. So let's go on to the next one, which is the Xbox Red Ring of Death. Imagine the phrase "Red Ring of Death" sends shivers. This goes back to the original launch of the Xbox 360. I think that was back in 2008, where the launch copies suffered from Red Ring of Death, which involved a recall issue as well as a product liability suit against Microsoft. The Red Ring of Death was indicative of an overheating issue, as many Xbox 360 consoles assumed. Yeah, a lot of people around the time were blaming the Red Ring of Death on a overheating issue, an engineering design flaw. So let's see what this article claims that the fault of the Red Ring of Death is. Leo Del Castillo, a former member of Xbox hardware engineering team, explained that the red light was brought on by connectors inside the components of the console breaking. Okay, so it was a different product liability issue and a product defect. The breaking of these components was usually linked to high temperatures, but it was the breaking more so than the overheating that was the problem. Okay, so they're alleging a post hoc fallacy here, but the thing is that it's not really, because there is causality. There is a correlation and there is a causality. What's expressed in this? They're saying that it was the wires breaking that caused the Red Ring of Death, but originally it was attributed to the overheating, but now it's attributed to the overheating causing the wires breaking, but they're focusing on the wires breaking, whereas the causality to the effect is still established and it changes nothing. So the Xbox former head of hardware, Todd Holmdahl, said that the Xbox 360 would fluctuate from hot to cold frequently as players switched the console off and on in quick succession. In engineering, that's usually referred to as ripple current or contactor surge. Usually it shouldn't cause that level of heat, but if it's in little microwires, it could cause that level of heat. And eventually it could melt soldering points, causing wire breakage and opens in the circuit, which obviously would cause the Red Ring of Death issue. Fair to say Xbox owners are less than impressed with this omission. Well, they're not expressed. This is a product liability issue that they can get sued for, so they're not going to express things publicly that would get them that would leverage more evidence against them in class action lawsuits. So obviously they're not going to express that initially, because that would, their lawyers probably said don't say that. So that was the Xbox issue. Let's move on to the Azahar emulator, being the best new hope for the Nintendo 3DS emulation. The Azahar emulator, a new emulator grows from the ashes of Citra. You know, you can still use Citra. It functions just fine. You can get it from an archive site, even though they shut down. It's not really that difficult. Same thing with the old versions of Yuzu and stuff like that. Obviously, I can't tell you where to find them. I can just say that they exist for academic purposes, even though that Citra is technically defunct, as the developer that was designing it disbanded in fears of Nintendo's legal retaliation. So what we got here is that the Azahar emulator is a new Citra fork that merges from the Lime 3DS and Pablo MK7 Citra fork. Azahar is Spanish for the Orange Blossom, which is a nice nod to the original project while signaling a new era. That actually is a pretty cool name. I do like that. This collaboration was first announced last month, but is the first official news about the project. No new Nintendo 3DS emulator to speak of, so you'll have to download the one from the older forks, or just revisit your favorite N3DS games. However, neither are still under active development, with a full open pull request now closed. Nintendo closed the eShop for the 3DS and Wii U on March of last year. Yeah, this is going to cause a problem with playing older versions of the game, especially with the downloadable content only being available from archive sites that Nintendo is declaring to be illegal. Although Nintendo's declaration what's illegal is immaterial unless they get a court order from the country they're trying to force that edict in. Like, let's say that Nintendo takes someone to a Japanese court. Well, that legal decision will only be regionally locked to Japan and will have no effect on the rest of the world. So a server that's in, let's say, Switzerland or the US could totally ignore a Japanese judicial ruling and such like that. Same thing, US rulings only impact the US, and the rest of the world is not beholden to the edicts of a foreign court, which is just basic legal standards, basic jurisdiction. Jurisdictions have no effect in other jurisdictions because of sovereign nations. It's like U.S. law is not applicable in Russia. Russian law is not applicable in the U.S. because they're ruled by different governments. Okay, so what else do we have here? Valve was pretty close to going bankrupt until it was saved. Let's look at the Valve stuff. Valve was pretty close to going bankrupt until it was saved from a pre-Half-Life 2 lawsuit by a summer intern who happened to be a major in Korean language studies. Okay, let's see how the causation and causality of Korean language studies goes with Valve's bankruptcy issues back in time. Gabe Newell's personal finances were on the line as well. Okay, that seems a little irrelevant. Alright, let's clarify. This news was by Dustin Bailey, which was published 17 hours ago in Gaming Radar, so that we have an official source, so you can link up for verification if you want to freaking look at the source yourself. Okay, the opening paragraph of this article declares that Valve as a company and Gabe Newell himself were on the verge of bankruptcy in the days before the launch of Steam and Half-Life 2, thanks to a lawsuit from publisher Vivendi Games. Okay, so the article is alleging that they are citing the transcript of a lawsuit as Vivendi Games as a plaintiff and Gabe Newell as the defendant, as evidence of a bankruptcy issue back in unspecified time. The article doesn't allege the exact date, so we're just going to go with that. Valve just happened to have access to a summer intern who could translate Korean. Back in 2004, Valve had already launched a handful of best FPS games ever made, including Half-Life, Counter-Strike, which had both been published by Sierra Entertainment, a subsidiary of... Okay, so so the picture is getting clearer here. Okay, so this is going to be a property rights dispute, where originally this guy said it was a bankruptcy issue. It looks like it's now a property rights and copyright issue over who owns the rights to these games, because Vivendi Entertainment under Sierra is claiming that they own the IP to Counter-Strike and Half-Life. Ahead of Half-Life 2's release, Vivendi was distributing copies of Valve's games to cyber cafes in Asia, something which Valve argued Vivendi didn't have the right to do. Okay, if they're distributing this stuff in Korea, it's going to fall under Korean law. So they're going to have to take it to Korea court. South Korea, that is. Let's not get this confused to a place that nobody would ever go up north there. Alright, so Vivendi would give up retail distribution rights and transfer all those cyber cafe licenses to Valve. Okay, so they freaking made an agreement. I'm not hearing anything about bankruptcy like the original, main thesis said. But anyways, but Valve's new 20th anniversary documentary on making Half-Life 2 reveals how dire the situation was by the time the. So what happened in that original documentary? What point are you trying to make? Article. Managing to force that settlement. This sounds like a copyright suit and not a friggin' bankruptcy suit. Because usually bankruptcy suits are with the federal government, so that you can tell your debtors that you have no money. Alright, Valve attorney Carl Quackenbush explains that Vivendi initially hired a small firm to defend the publisher against Valve's lawsuit. Okay, so Valve sued Vivendi Sierra. Okay, so I had that backwards because it wasn't specified in the introduction. There were some disputes and motions that had been decided that were all Valve's way, Quackenbush says. And then the law firm disappeared. They hired a big, scary law firm from San Francisco. They thought, okay, Valve's had some success in this game, so we need to change the mindset from we think this is going to be successful to they're going to be destroyed. Next thing we knew, here comes this big stack of counterclaims. Everything from canceling 2001. Okay, so the defendant turned this lawsuit into a counterclaim, what they call a shit show. And Vivendi's countersuit named not just Valve itself, but CEO Scott Lynch and President Gabe Newell, along with both their spouses, personally defendants. Okay, so this is a lot of these things sounds like they're just going to get dismissed as irrelevant. They're going to put Valve's business and bankrupt the both of you, so they're threatening to bankrupt them. Okay, it's not a legal strategy. It's basically trying to intimidate you. Well, obviously Vivendi lost this counterclaim because you can't legally pay for this kind of scorched earth policy to crush your opponent without paying a metric shit ton of money to crush your opponent. This is just insane. Vivendi responded by dumping giant piles of documents in Valve's lap, all in Korean. Okay, I mean, that's petty. I mean, all you have to do is hire a Korean language translator. It's not that difficult. And, hey, we destroyed all these Valve documents like you asked, are you sure? And yeah, that's what it says. Obviously, destroying evidence is a bit of no-no. No, that's illegal. Not a no-no, it's straight up illegal. And in fact, they'll hit you with a preservation order, which would make destruction of evidence a felony. Vivendi disputed Andrew's mistranslation, but he was both a native Korean speaker and major in Korean language studies at UCLA. Okay, so Vivendi's trying to do dirty legal stuff, which is going to get their suit dismissed.